New video tonight, an officer now charged with murder. Perhaps they're seen explaining himself.
But how will his new attorney explain this graphic video? Good evening, everybody. I'm Dean Stevens.
And I'm Victoria Hanson. New tonight, we have just learned there was a passenger with Walter Scott when he was initially pulled over before he was gunned down by a North Charleston cop. That passenger's name is not given in the police report, but police do say another officer spoke to the passenger while Michael Slager chased the victim into a vacant field. And that's where eyewitness video now shows 50-year-old Walter Scott gunned down as he fled. The officer fired 8 shots. We will hear from the man who captured these images in just one moment. And of course, that video led to the immediate firing of Officer Michael Slager, as well as a murder charge.
But many are still outraged, and there have been rallies and protests throughout the day, including one in downtown tonight in the Satilli Theater. That's where we find ABC News 4's Ava Wilhite with the very latest.
A quiet yet determined crowd kept the conversation going about what led to the death of Walter Scott and other unarmed black men across the nation.
I see future people.
From Representative Wendell Gilliard to poets who shared original work, a crowd of people listened to community issues. The night crowd of protesters also talked about a higher minimum wage and union representation in South Carolina. No loud bullhorn was used to keep the attention of about 50 protesters. The crowd says they will continue to show up outside City Hall every day. In North Charleston, Ava Wilhite, ABC News 4.
All right, Ava, thank you. And tonight, for the first time, we hear from the man who took that graphic cell phone video.
The interview was provided by CNN, and the young man's name is Faden Santana.
Breaking news in the shooting death of an unarmed black man in South Carolina by a white police officer. Moments ago, the man who filmed the crucial video of the shooting, who until now was unknown, spoke for the first time to NBC News, adding new details about what happened in the moments just before he started recording.
They were down on the floor. They were down on the floor before I started recording. You know, they were down on the floor. I remember the police had control of the situation. He had control, you know, of Scott, and Scott was trying just to get away from the taser.
That, of course, contradicts the officer's version of events that Scott was trying to take away his weapon.
Well, ABC News 4, is also, or the video I should say, has raised plenty of questions, like why was Walter Scott handcuffed when he had already been shot and was face down on the ground?
And did anyone try to administer CPR? Today, the police chief and mayor tried to answer those questions. The bottom line, they're not sure.
Not every officer is CPR certified. With that, it's over. Thank you.
We have obtained former officer Michael Slager's personnel file, and it says he was CPR trained, most recently in 2013. We also know from that file there was an incident involving Officer Slager that year where he was accused of using his taser without cause. That case was cleared. We also know tonight that Michael Slager is now represented by Charleston attorney Andy Savage. His first attorney dropped the case as soon as that video was released.
All right, ABC News 4 has obtained the radio transmissions from police the morning of that shooting. We wanted to know, how do they compare to that now much analyzed video?
And for that part of the story, we want to turn our attention to ABC News 4's Lara Rollo. She joins us right now in the studio. Lara?
Dean and Vic, it's hard to tell exactly what happens in that video after the 8 gunshots are fired off, though those are very clear. The coroner reports several of those shots hit Scott in the back. We begin tonight with audio recordings from dispatch. Michael Slager is identified in these recordings as Officer 223.
Shots fired. Subject is down. He grabbed my taser.
Shots fired. He grabbed your taser. Subject is down at 9:38.
At 9:38, Walter Scott was face down on the ground. Video shows he'd been shot at by former North Charleston police officer Michael Slager. Listen closely. You hear 7 shots, a pause, and an 8th shot. Moments before.
222 gets back 1080 off foot, down Craig Street, black male, green shirt, blue pants.
Video shows Scott running from the officer. He'd been pulled over for a broken taillight. Slager reports Scott had taken his taser in a confrontation and started to run. He later said he feared for his life.
Gunshot wounds, looks like the chest, to the right side. All responses. I copy. Make sure the scene's secure. It is. Looking, another gunshot wound to the butt.
According to this recording, at least 3 of the shots fired hit Scott. The video appears to show Scott was cuffed before Slager called for backup. At 9:41, 3 minutes after the shooting was radioed in, officers on the scene report Scott is unresponsive.
Get information from EMS, black male, mid-20s to 30s, gunshot wound to the left side, to the back, one left side to the buttocks, unresponsive.
Radio transmissions depict rescue efforts by officers at the scene.
We started chest compressions.
But it's hard to tell if there are any first aid efforts until EMS arrives at 9:45. Walter Scott died at the scene. Lara Rollo, ABC News 4.
All right, Lara, thank you. The victim's family says it is too painful to watch that video. Today, his mother said she forgives the officer for killing her son.
I couldn't really watch the whole tape. When I saw my son running and I saw the policeman behind him, I couldn't take it. I had to turn away. I couldn't handle it. The policeman is supposed to protect the people, not try to frame them or get out of what they've done wrong. They're supposed to be honest people, protecting us. I feel forgiveness in my heart, even for the guy that shot and killed my son.
North Charleston's mayor and police chief addressed the media as well today, saying, among many things, the city would continue to provide health insurance for the officer's wife, even though he has been fired.
They say she is 8 months pregnant, and it is the humane thing to do. ABC News 4's Bill Burr joining us live tonight from City Hall with more on what came out in what became a very contentious press conference. Good evening, Bill.
Dean, good evening. Mayor Keith Sumby announced he's buying an extra 150 body cameras for uniformed officers. While concerned citizens seemed happy to hear about that, they want to know why it's difficult to hire minority officers for the police department.
This is what democracy looks like.
An already angry crowd of protesters sought answers from city leaders and law enforcement.
Hey, what would happen if there wasn't a camera there?
The video of Saturday's deadly shooting has concerned citizens searching for answers about the investigation.
First of all, we don't have all the information. Both.
The chief of police or the mayor? Which one?
I'm asking you to respect me as I'm going to respect you.
But they believe little has been revealed since the video came to light.
There's anger because our people aren't stupid. Our people read between the lines. Our people know when they're being fed a crock.
We want triggers. We want triggers.
Pastor Thomas Dixon and others wanted more details about the shooting and how the video changed opinions about the officer charged with murder.
All I saw today was the police department revert back to their usual posture of we don't really have to tell you anything. So we're going to tell you whatever we decide we want to give you.
City officials say they're unable to provide much information because state investigators are in charge. Still, some civil rights activists think disrupting the news conference was counterproductive.
No racist police!
The people needed to listen to the press conference. They didn't need to be disrupted like they were.
Chief Drigger says he is doing what he can to attract more qualified candidates to the police department, but he admits it is challenging. In the meantime, tomorrow, dash cam video from a patrol car at the scene of Saturday's shooting will be released. At this point, we don't know if it's going to shed any new light into what happened at that deadly shooting last Saturday. For now, reporting live in North Charleston, Bill Burr, ABC News 4.
Bill, thank you. South Carolina's former top cop says North Charleston officials have their work cut out for them.
Former State Attorney General Charlie Condon believes the evidence against Michael Slager is so solid, public distrust will be unavoidable. ABC News 4's Valencia Wicker has that part of the story.
It's a long tape, isn't it?
The cell phone clip showing Walter Scott's death weighed heavily on attorney Charlie Condon.
I can't think of a situation comparable, particularly in this area.
The 3-minute video gives a play-by-play of former officer Michael Slager's actions. It shows him shooting Scott several times in the back.
There's an obvious fear in the African American community here in South Carolina and across the country that the laws aren't being fairly applied to them. Well, we've got it on tape now. We really do, and we have to deal with that.
Wednesday, North Charleston officials dealt with their own shots, verbal attacks fired in City Hall.
You can't underestimate, I think, where we are now, because there's clear, compelling evidence that, at least in this particular case, that the system was on the fast track to washing this case, and it's a outrageous act of criminality.
A call for answers from an angry community. Condon says he's never seen such a turn of events. Initially, detectives called the shooting justifiable. Just 3 days later, a charge of murder.
Effective law enforcement is a partnership with the community, and the trust has been tested greatly here. I do think the city leaders are doing a great job of trying to repair that trust, but it'll take some time.
Time and patience until there's a verdict.
And that was ABC News 4's Valencia Wicker reporting for us tonight. We also spoke with ABC News analyst Brad Garrett. He provides insight in areas like violent crime, hostage negotiations, and behavioral profiling.
I would categorize this video as someone who basically lost control of a situation, overreacted, applied deadly force with no real justification to apply it, and you end up with a dead victim. You only use deadly force if it's being used against you or somebody else, and you just don't have that in this video, and I don't think you have it in this case, even without the video.
The Reverend Al Sharpton, he weighed in today as well. He said, quote, Walter Scott's death is a senseless tragedy, and we commend the city of North Charleston for acting swiftly to deliver justice in this case. National Action Network South Carolina chapter leaders have been with the family since Saturday, and our thoughts and prayers are with them and the entire community of North Charleston. I have spoken with the Scott's family attorney, Chris Stewart, and plan to visit North Charleston very soon.
The family of Walter Scott has announced his funeral arrangements. The funeral will take place Saturday morning at 11 at Word Ministry Christian Center. That's in Somerville. He will be buried at Live Oak Memorial Gardens immediately after the service. Now, today, people are still getting to know more about Walter Scott.
And many are honoring his memory simply by visiting the very place that he was killed, including one man who says that he had been pulled over by the former officer before. ABC News 4's Stacey Jacobson has that story.
Here at the spot where Walter Scott died, people have been coming and going all day. And throughout the day, we've stayed to hear what they're reflecting on and hear their stories.
Along the way, we met one man who says he doesn't want his face on camera, but he's been pulled over by Michael Slager in the past. He says he lives 3 blocks from here and heard what happened Saturday morning.
First, I thought it was just 4 shots, 4 rapid-fire shots. Pow, 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 pause, and pow. I didn't know that Mr. Scott had just gotten murdered.
Prince William says he's always nervous driving around his home in North Charleston, and he says that's no way to live.
I've been stopped more than once by Officer Slager and other officers of the North Charleston Police Department. And they just don't treat you like a human being when you are a man of my hue. And I figure if I'm being treated like that while coming from a worship service, there are others being treated worse who might be out maybe doing the wrong thing, but just trying to get home.
Several of the men we spoke with out here say they feel like they easily could have been in the same position as Walter Scott. In North Charleston, Stacey Jacobson, ABC News 4.
Stacey, thank you. We reached out to North Charleston Police spokesperson to try to find out if police say Officer Slager did have contact with Williams, but we did not get a response.
And this is not the first time that a Low-Country officer has been charged with murder. Former Utahville Police Chief Richard Combs faced the same charge about 4 years ago in the shooting death of Bernard Bailey outside of Town Hall. Now, a jury could not reach a verdict, however, earlier this year, and that case did end in a mistrial. The defense attorney argued the chief shot Bailey in self-defense. Now, the state newspaper reports tonight there were 209 incidents in which officers fired their weapons from 2011 until 2014. 3 were accused of misuse of force. None was convicted.